Fox News alert for you now because a bold call from Washington as frustration echoes around the country over rising gas prices. President Obama calling on Congress today to strip the oil industry of all tax breaks. Welcome to a brand new hour of America Live. I'm Allison Camerata in for Megyn Kelly today. President Obama saying that Americans are the ones paying the price.
Think about that. It's like hitting the American people twice. You're already paying a premium at the pump right now. And on top of that, Congress, up until this point, has thought it was a good idea to send billions of dollars more in tax dollars to the oil industry.
But congressional Republicans warn that this move could have epic implications. They say cutting tax breaks would only lead to more pain at the pump. Fox's Ed Henry is live at the White House with more. Tell us what happened today, Ed.
Well, Allison, interesting because just weeks after the president told me at a news conference that he would never support policy in an election year that would raise gas prices, he actually did that today in the Rose Garden. The Congressional Research Service says that if you ended these $4 billion in oil and gas industry tax breaks, it would actually result in tax increases, of course, that will result in higher oil and gas prices for American consumers. Nevertheless, the president in the Rose Garden said this is the right thing to do.
One analysis shows that every time gas goes up by a penny, these companies usually pocket another $200 million in quarterly profits. Meanwhile, these companies pay a lower tax rate than most other companies on their investments, partly because we're giving them billions in tax giveaways every year.
Now, White House spokesman Jay Carney said it would be nonsensical to continue these oil and gas tax breaks, but a handful of Senate Democrats disagreed with that characterization, voted against moving forward on a debate about this, joining with Senate Republicans, led by the Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who said this is wrong-headed policy. Take a listen.
Somehow they thought that doing this would set up some kind of political win for them, which frankly I don't understand. I mean, I can't imagine anybody giving them any high fives for not lowering gas prices. But anyway, that was obviously the plan.
Now, as the bickering continues, they didn't move forward on that legislation, and meanwhile, gas prices continue to go up. AAA, when you look at their gauge, now says it's the national average has gone up 20 consecutive days, now inching towards an average of $4 a gallon nationwide, Allison.
Well, maybe they'll be listening to your report and stop the bickering. Ed Henry, thanks so much for that update. And our next guest is worried that the removal of these tax incentives will only decrease domestic production and, most importantly, cost America jobs. Matt McCall is the president of the Penn Financial Group. Hi, Matt.
How you doing?
So the president made the argument that he wants to transfer the $11.7 billion that go to these oil companies to other things such as deficit reduction and clean energy development. What's wrong with that argument?
Well, there's a lot wrong with it. First of all, you're taking away these subsidies from these big oil and gas companies, as Mitch McConnell alluded to. Suddenly, when that's taken away, gas prices are actually going to go higher because it's like taking a tax and adding it on to the company. So if I'm getting charged more to produce a good or service, this just happens to be oil and gas, and now I'm going to pass that along to my customers, being you and I. It's going to cost more to fill our tank.
Well, Senator Menendez of New Jersey, he was the sponsor of this bill. He said that last year the big five oil companies made $137 billion in profits. Why do they need a government subsidy?
Well, because if they do not have this government subsidy, number one, what's going to happen is production and domestic production here in the United States is going to fall. Because a lot of these subsidies go towards exploration and production here in the States. If that money's taken away, we have less oil coming out of our country, more reliance on the Middle East, which is a big reason oil is going up right now. At the same time, jobs are going to drop because we don't have the people out there exploring for this oil. So it's kind of an effect that it multiplies. You take this away, and it's tough to sell this because everybody watching right now saying, I'm paying $4 per gallon, and this company is getting $130 billion in subsidies. It doesn't make sense to me. But if you take away those subsidies, that $4 could be $5 at the tank. That's what you have to keep in your mind.
Maybe, except that some Democrats and the administration would argue that the price at the pump would ultimately go down because they believe that if you develop clean energy, that will spur more competition in the marketplace.
Well, when I read this morning about the statement he was going to be making today at the Rose Garden, saying I'm going to take the money away from fossil fuels, oil and gas, and put it towards clean energy. he's got such an impeccable record being the president on, clean energy. Look at Solyndra, look at the Fisker, the clean-burning car company. It doesn't work. If people out there right now wanted to use clean energy, there'd be private companies out there with money going into that industry. So the government should not be in the business of saying, you know what, we're going to push clean energy. And really, he actually wins, because if he does this and goes through with this, gas prices go up, and it may force clean energy at the end.
Okay, so take clean energy out of the equation for a second. He also says that some of these $11 billion could be used to reduce the deficit. Isn't that what Americans have been saying they want to be done for the past 3 years?
That I actually can agree with. If I truly believed in my heart that the government was going to take this money and pay down the deficit, I may be on board with this a little bit. But we both know, Houston, he's not going to take that money and pay down the deficit. It's just going to be shifted somewhere else, and he already alluded to the clean energy. So in my mind, no, this doesn't work. And even if you do take that few $1 billion to pay down the deficit, the economy can actually get stuck in a rut because gas prices go higher. So it could have a detrimental effect once you put it all together. So it's a lose-lose for me, taking away these billions from the oil and gas company.
I mean, obviously, what I hear you saying is that there's always the law of unintended consequences that could be happening. All right, Matt McCall, thanks so much for coming in with your expertise on this.